This is Dick Morris. Thanks for tuning in. I've just come from a very depressing experience. I watched Barack Obama give his speech to the country on his deficit reduction plan. It's a lot like the guy that kills his mother and father and then begs for clemency on the grounds that he's an orphan. Here he has increased federal spending incredibly, unbelievably. Welfare spending's up by 54%. That includes Medicaid and food stamps and that stuff. And government spending, the federal departments, is up by 41%. And now all of a sudden he's got religion and he wants to cut it back. But then he criticizes the Republicans, saying you're going to do a 25% cut in education. Well, yeah, after you doubled it, they're going to lower it by 25%. But you don't get equal time in these to talk back, so pardon me for venting myself here. There were really two fundamental proposals in that speech that are terribly important. The first is that he says that he's going to either eliminate or scale back the tax deductions on mortgage interest and on charitable giving. Now, he calls those reducing the expenditures in the tax code, reducing the spending in the tax code. What he means by that is that the federal government forswears $132 billion a year that it could get if it taxed mortgage interest. But because it doesn't collect $132 billion. And that's called a tax expenditure in budget parlance. So he's now calling that spending and saying he's going to cut that spending. It's just a ridiculous misnomer. But the point is that the housing industry is in terrible shape. People aren't able to build housing or buy housing or sell housing. And eliminating that deduction or scaling it way back, as he's going to do, is going to have a horrific effect, a terrible effect. It'll mean that most people who will have bought their home, assuming that they had that deduction, all of a sudden will find that they don't. And all of a sudden they won't be able to afford the home that they're in. The most cynical of these cuts is to eliminate or scale back the charitable deduction. Here's this guy that wants to help the poor and all of that, but he wants the government to do it. He doesn't want private philanthropy to do it, because along with the aid, he wants the political control that comes from the handouts from the government. But probably the most dangerous part of this speech is one that people have not commented on. It essentially takes away from Congress the power to tax. That's right. Takes away the power to tax from Congress. Obama said in that speech, I don't know if you remember it, he said that if his deficit reduction targets are not met, that he would favor a law that would require the Congress and the President to work together to meet those targets. Well, that's a variation of an idea being sponsored by Kent Conrad, the Democratic senator from North Dakota, chairman of the Budget Committee in the Senate. And he says that what we should do is, if those deficit reduction targets are not met, automatically have spending cuts and tax increases kick in. Automatically. So in a sense, what he's going to do is pass a bill with all kinds of glorified targets or limited tax increases, but with those targets set in stone. And then when they're not reached, there'll be a virgin tax increase. Nobody will have to vote for it. It'll just happen. That's the most dangerous part of this budget, and that's what we've got to kill. But the one good news is Obama's not moving to the center. This was as leftist a budget a speech as you possibly can get. And now we have two alternative visions. The Ryan plan, which is to shrink government back to pre-Obama levels, and the Obama plan, which is essentially to raise taxes to pay for all of the extra spending he's gotten. No question as to which I favor, the Ryan plan. So stay tuned and let's talk in the future about how we can get there. Thanks for listening.